Alright, comment video, I believe. Yeah. So different subjects. I think one of them's Ken Wheeler. At least that's what it looks like. I don't know what the other one says. Assuming length contraction. That doesn't sound like a good thing to do. But anyway, I haven't read them yet, so this figure we'll do this while I have the time, which I don't really have. But anyway, so Andrew Gehring, whatever. Hours and hours of obsessing over Ken. So 3% of my videos. It's really just 2 something, but anyway. Less than 3% of my videos have anything to do with Ken Wheeler. Now, I guess it's these people, they think that somebody should propose radical theories claiming that Einstein's a knuckle-dragging imbecile, Feynman's a knuckle-dragging imbecile, bold statements, and Tesla was the greatest scientist in the history of mankind, and because it's wrapped up in some bigger theory of universal energy and all kinds of mystical, magical promises of a whole better world through new physics or something, and nobody should talk about it. We should just listen to Ken, have Ken tell us what the truth is, and nobody should discuss whether that sounds like bullshit. Nobody should do any of that. No discussion necessary. Is that what you're saying? Oh, yes, that's what you're saying. LOL, you say. LOL. Okay, if you think that's the way the world should work. Somebody says Einstein's a knuckle-dragging imbecile, and we should just, oh, you're right. That's totally, yeah, you're totally correct. I mean, LOL. You know, with a bunch of wrinkles in my forehead indicating satire. That's why my forehead is so fucking wrinkled. It's because you people constantly make me have to go, what? Constantly. Begins the next sentence. And you call spewing half-baked negations debunking. Exactly how? Exactly how is that what I do when I debunk? Could you quote that debunking where I did that as the debunk, and the debunk wasn't how do hyperboloids make magnets move together with incredible strength? I mean, he's constantly playing with this. He has a magnet that's so dangerous he doesn't want to get his head too close to it. It's so powerful. How is the hyperboloid doing that? You have a lot to learn about the process of rhetoric, dialogue. No, I'm not an asshole. So no, you got that sentence wrong. I have to. You're really saying you have to learn to be an asshole like me, who has their head up Ken Wheeler's ass. Yeah, that's what you have to think. That's how you have to say that sentence. Dialogue testing. So again, let's understand. I show Ken Wheeler's tests, and some of his tests are so silly, like putting the magnet on the edge of the scale, and then doing the experiment with the magnet in the middle of the scale. I mean, just insanely. And then the plastic bottle one. I don't know if anybody remembers the plastic bottle one, where the bottle dimples because it's hard plastic, and he calls the dimple some sort of physical effect that we all should take note. When no, it's just the plastic saying, I reject what you're doing, compressing me, so I will bend the other way. You know, no surprise at all. You know, anyway. And peer reviewing. And you don't think that I'm a peer of Ken Wheeler's in a sense. You know, he's fringe science, I'm fringe science. So in some sense, we are peer reviewing. And he's the coward. So understand, he's afraid of a review. He will not let anyone review his physics. Anyone, ever. You either say, I love you, Ken, or you're deleted and blocked. That's it. Those are his rules. How could you put the words peer reviewing in big letters when there's absolutely no evidence that a single thing Ken Wheeler has ever said has been reviewed by anyone with any kind of reasonable skepticism? Where's the evidence of the skeptical review that Ken Wheeler has allowed? Where is that? Anyway, before you give yourself permission to define what is empirical. So again, you can define it though. You'll tell me what is, because you know. But I'm not allowed to think I know anything, because you know everything. So you're going to tell me which is real science, and Ken Wheeler's real science, and Einstein was a knuckle dragger for sure. And you know that's the truth because you have a big pile of evidence that says so somewhere. Where? Oh, that's right, the FBI stole it all. Oh, I forgot. You know, you reek of social ineptitude. You reek of asshole. I mean, gaping, motherfucking, huge, stinky asshole. That's what you reek of. Petty bitterness. No, it seems you are the petty people. You say that, well, we're the truth seekers and we're on the side of right. And yet you have to use commentary like you have to pick on dead people? You're fucking dead people trolls. Ken Wheeler trolls dead people. And you're going to sit there and say you're on some sort of high ground? He trolls the dead, for fuck's sake. I have to come up with a way to say that. Zombie trolling or something. And impulsive emotional compensation. And again, how you're the ones with the emotional problem. Capital letters in your typing. I think you're the one with a little emotional problem. You're just a little too upset. Preposterous exaggerations. Einstein was an imbecile, a knuckle-dragging, whatever, ape man of some kind. That's not being preposterously excessive in your rhetoric. Emotional compensation problem. To the point of practically having counting slashes on your forehead indicating how many decades it's been since a woman gave you the time of day. So you think you want to get into that contest, asshole? You know, how to put this? If we took the women who have shown interest in me, okay, let's just put them in a category, a bubble. And then we put the bubble of the women who've shown interest in you, that you haven't paid. You know, and let's have that contest, okay? If you're willing, I'm willing. Okay. Yes, unfortunately, you are that transparent, says you. It's sad. Yes, do you feel sorry? I do feel sorry for you. I don't feel sorry for you. I have contempt for you. Because this, like I said, some of this bullshit is just so overtly excessive. And just, you know, it's a lie. I mean, hours and hours and hours of obsessing over Ken. No evidence I've done any such thing. I'm obsessed with physics. Ken's challenging physics. And he's challenging it in a preposterously idiotic way, making all dissidents look like assholes. So yes, I critique him because he's a menace to the process. He's a menace to the human race getting the right answer. Because he's just another religious kook trying to drag the human race to his cult philosophy, his little made-up jelly bean world of hyperburloids and trioidals. Yes, unfortunately, you are that transparent. Oh, you already did it. I feel sorry for you. Like I said, I don't feel sorry for you. I have contempt for you. You are the menace. You're one of the menaces that has ruined human dignity. You're the one stripping human beings of the dignity they could have if it wasn't for assholes like you. I'm sure you tell yourself that that your low viewership and low subscription numbers are reflective of the ignorance dominating the world. No, you know, the fact is that people don't go to YouTube to learn physics. So, you know, I could just point to the guy doing the brilliant mathematical lectures, you know, the iLecture Online guy. He's been doing years of basically giving college educations away for free, alright, and his videos get less than 1,000 views. And he's brilliant. I mean, what he's doing is brilliant. I'm not saying he's doing it very well. And so, again, so your explanation is he sucks. That's why he has low views. It's because he sucks. Well, his math sucks. Everything he's doing is suck. He gets what he deserves. That's your opinion. And Ken Wheeler's gotten what he deserves. Bullshit. Ignorance dominating the world, but it is in fact a direct reflection of the intrinsic value of what you're offering here. So he thinks view numbers on YouTube are an accurate reflection of the importance of things. Kitten videos, funny frog, fail videos, watching people fail at things That's really important. The human race needs to do that. We need to laugh at people being injured because it's funny. Oh, God, you suck so bad. I mean, you just suck so fucking bad. Goodbye. Ugh. Anyway, alright, Alexander Zaptia. Assuming length contraction, in your setup, are you saying that the neutrons get further apart from each other when you insert energy from the bottom of the electron paths? No, what I was saying is that the electron and proton that are inside the neutron, that separation changes the exposure to the electron from different angles. So the further the electron goes from the neutron, the more you can hit the back side of the electron. The closer the electron is to the neutron, the more impossible it is to hit the electron from this side. Get it? It's a complete shadow. You can't get to the electron at all. That's what I was saying. Alright. I'm thinking... well, I might as well read the rest of it. Further apart from each other, the bottom, let's see, when you insert energy from the bottom into the electron paths, are the neutrons getting closer? So again, it's not about the neutrons. I drew the point. I pointed out that the nucleus of a helium is 2 neutrons and 2 electrons. The argument made is that the neutrons are essentially an electron and a proton very close together, and that makes a neutron. So I broke them for the purpose of making the diagram work. You have to understand a neutron as what it's made out of. If you think a neutron is something, then it turns into absolutely nothing in atoms. Neutrons are obviously there for a reason. They have to have a function, and when you give them no charge, they have no function. They obviously are charged. It's just their charge is balanced. They're a dipole instead of a monopole. Electrons a monopole. Protons a monopole. Neutrons a dipole. I'm sorry, I have to keep saying things. See, people say, "Well, you're so redundant," but you know, it demonstrates that even though I say these things directly, it just doesn't happen to seep in. And people don't watch enough of the videos, I suppose. They watch a video here, video there, and you're just not going to get the whole story that way. I am thinking, I mean, you got to watch the overview videos or something. I am thinking in shoving a lot of energy from the bottom, then wondering on why objects get shorter but not wider or taller in length contraction. Well, the point is there's forces between the protons, you know, the repulsive forces, and the attractive forces between the electrons, and so changing shapes is a little dangerous. You can fluctuate shapes, you could argue, but actually changing the average of the shape can change the function. So I'm just saying it's a little dangerous. But anyway. So, but obviously I don't have any reason to assume length contraction. It's not like it's something with there's overwhelming evidence demonstrating any function that exists and all that stuff. So it's not something to assume. The problem is, if acceleration only makes objects shorter, how would these reflective angles for acceleration and deceleration change and make the object harder to accelerate? Exactly, but I mean the point is it's a moving object. Okay, so let's say something was processing. The actual shape of the object would be always the same. It's just that at any one moment, incrementally, okay, the change is incremental. It doesn't happen to the whole object at once. It only happens at one little piece of it at a time. And so that's why the balance can be maintained. Anyway, would not energy coming from any direction act on electrons present such that it forces the whole molecule in the direction like a sail? Well, this was before I just made the previous video, so yes, I've already pointed out kind of exactly that point, that it's pretty tricky to make a sail that catches more weak wind than it catches strong wind. You know, that's hard to do. if atomic deformation is the reason for these, they would show up as width and height differences once length contraction takes place. Well, again, I don't assume a contraction. I say if there is a contraction, you have to explain what's causing the contraction, and I'm not too sure. It can be stated that obviously atomic nuclei are semi-durable, so they can't get too wacky shaped. But whatever. I'll concede the point that there may be shape changes as velocity increases. That certainly could be the truth. I'm just saying you can't just say it. You sort of have to demonstrate how it can happen and maintain function. Alright, anyway. So off today. Suffice to say, what's the difference between force bit and matter bit? I mean, I've gone over it so many times. Start with force. Little bits moving the speed of light. Now, I've been over that so many times. It's on the website, little picture of the arrows going all directions. That's what the universe starts with, little bits. Then some of the little bits get clumped in the sense that they're going opposite directions from each other, in the sense that it's a clump that's from the external pressure held together. So the arrows coming in from the outside that would hit every single thing in every point in space. Everything, if I had a field of energy, a field of little BBs, just a random field of a zillion little BBs, and I was inside a box and they all just, and I put something in the box, it's going to feel like, just like a light bulb, it's going to get hit from each side equally with the same amount of BBs constantly. So anytime there's an arrangement where there's two things that happen to just pass each other, those two things will end up getting hit by equal energy, and they'll just keep reflecting and reflecting and reflecting, and they'll never be able to go anywhere because the pressure will keep reflecting them. So every time there's a chance encounter where two things line up perfectly past each other, they'll essentially be trappable in that they'll just keep bouncing back and forth. And that's probably some kind of mechanism like that creates what are called matter bits. Now the matter bits are the electron and the proton. I mean, I've only been over it 7,000 times. I'm just trying to give you language that makes it easy to identify things. So the electron and proton have all this little energy in them. It's moving in all directions, but it's constantly pushed in by the external pressure. So it's like air in a basketball. If I put the basketball in space, it explodes. If I keep the basketball in air pressure, it stays round and friendly. You can't understand that? So the matter bits, the electrons are like basketballs and they're in pressure. Alright, so we could say the proton's a basketball, and we could say the electron's a baseball or a tennis ball. That's the basic function. So the basketball and the baseball I'm calling matter bits because they're the function, the bits that make atoms, and I'm calling the little bits that are the pressure that's both inside the basketball and outside the basketball. That pressure is called force. Force bits. It's made of BBs. So just think of it as BBs. There's BBs in the whole universe is full of them, random. The basketball has BBs inside of it trying to get out, but they keep hitting BBs that are pushing them in. Follow along that far? And the point is when two things get next to each other, they shade each other from the field BBs, and they get pushed together. And then if they're the right different polarizations, like I said, there's two color BBs. A lot, yeah. I mean, but I shouldn't even have to say that anymore, right? I've said it so many times. It's been mocked. It's been, I mean, it really. I've drawn them every time as black and red. I mean, we should have this part down by now. So he gets a thumb up for a comment that says, "Suffice to say, what is the difference between a force bit and a matter bit?" Like I haven't explained this 100 times, more than 100 times in these videos. There's no doubt that I have made the point about electron, proton, red bit, black bit, electron energy, proton energy, electron force, proton force. I mean, I've made these distinctions literally 100 times, and he asked this question. Amazing. Alright, anyway, okay. So, first, an argument can be inspected in itself. if that's true, then your physics would be in really big trouble. Because in itself, the ideas are insanely nothing. The multiverse, in itself is wacky as fuck. Anyway, others don't need to counter argument. I don't know what that means. To access deficiencies in another's argument. Others don't need to counter argument. To access deficiencies in another's argument. I don't even know what that means. It's not about you accessing deficiencies. It's about you being able to argue deficiencies. You have to argue them to counter them. Okay, there's no countering without the argument. If you don't make the argument, the theory hasn't been countered. Second, it's interesting to note that the universe does not work as an eternal, perpetual motion machine. I would argue that then you say photons aren't real things then, because they're perpetually moving. And if you don't understand that they're perpetually moving, I'm sorry, but you're retarded. So you're retarded. Well, you've declared yourself a retard, so that makes sense. I just don't understand how, perpetual motion is about, in the bigger universe, trying to extract energy out of the universe in this bigger scale, because there's an assumption there's energy to tap in the small bits. Clearly we see perpetual motion in the universe. The idea is, can we make something like a photon? Can we make something that harnesses that function of just going forever? Idiot. But the fact that it exists as one of the functions of the universe, holy shit, how can you deny that? But whatever. Entropy ever increasing. Again, entropy has nothing to do with what's happening to, say, a photon. A photon could give a shit less about entropy. Entropy isn't going to change a photon's life one tiny bit. It isn't going to make a photon stop moving. So entropy only has to do with things bigger, from a bigger perspective than the photon. From the photon's perspective, there's no entropy in its universe. Nothing's going to wear out. Nothing's going to drain into nowhere. It functions, and there's no evidence saying it doesn't. It travels 10 billion years, 15, what's the most now? 14.5 billion light years it travels, plus the light years it took it to get where we saw it. And you're telling me that it thinks there's a crisis and it's going to run out of gas someday? There's no evidence they run out of gas, fuckhead. Alright. Third, it appears you are trying to explain perpetual motion of objects by perpetual motion of other objects, quantabits. Clearly, I mean, how many times have I said this one directly? I say it on my website. Gravity is a nuclear force. How many times have I said everything that happens, every movement is nuclear? Nothing moves because of any other reason than some nuclear bits did nuclear shit. Electrons and protons had to transfer force and move it and migrate it, and all that shit had to happen for my hand to move it all. There's 1 gazillion times the speed of light squared operations happening in every second of existence here on our frame of the universe. We're seeing almost no detail. 99.99 times 10 to the fucking 400th % of the universe is happening where we can't see it happening. It's happening so fucking fast. So yes, everything's nuclear, and on the nuclear universe, this idea of perpetual isn't even a consideration because every one of the little force bits is doing it. God, you're stupid. Alright, fourth. I get the whole 2 bits 1A type polarized, other B type polarized gives rise to 2 forces. Alright, fourth, I get the whole 2 bits. I get the whole 2 bits. 1A type polarized, another B type polarized gives rise to 2 forces. Yes, but it's one force. I mean, it's just polarized, okay? You don't say because light's polarized it's not light anymore. You call it light. You don't call this way polarized light xenon and call light polarized this way F on. So, I mean, I get your... look, I'm grateful that you finally get something, but you're getting it in another way where you're trying to oblige me to say there's two fundamental forces. No, there's one fundamental force. It just comes in two flavors. You really don't, because there's another flavor of popsicle, you don't call it not a popsicle. I mean, a grape popsicle and a cherry popsicle. You don't say they're not popsicles. You know, you don't. Fifth, I don't get the principle of force bit and mass bit. There's no... Look, I'm just using the word bit to describe the idea of a discrete thing. And I called them two kinds of things. Matter bits and force bits. And so just think of it, the BB, baseball, basketball. And understand that the basketball and the BB are made, the baseball and the basketball are made of BBs. The force bits are the BBs. Everything else is made of BBs, but has functions based on what kind of BBs it's made of. Alright. Let's see. I don't get the principle of force bits and mass bits, as explained in terms of the aforementioned quanta polarized bits. Well, I can't say it any clearer. The black force bits interact in a specific way with the black, mass bits. So the electron bits act a certain way, with electrons, and the proton bits act a certain way with the protons. And the two ways they interact are completely inverted based on color. So black bit doesn't react the same when it's a red bit, and red bit doesn't act the same when it hits a black bit as it does when they hit each other. And the two differences is 90-degree turn versus complete reflection. And those are the only two differences. And I've said this so many times, and it's drawings on the website of it. So I just don't understand how you're not getting that. The two kinds of bit, the two flavors of popsicle, cherry and grape, only affect, forget popsicle, the red BBs and the black BBs. Make it that way. And they consider the baseball to be a black thing and the basketball is a red thing. And so the black BBs hit the basketball in the same way that a red BB hits the baseball. They just have an inverted, different property, and there's only two functions. Complete reflection backwards, force forward, and 90-degree angle reflection, which means only a half bit of force forward. Alright. I just can't say it any clearer, can I? Anyway. Alright, so I'll leave that one up. It's not too snarky. First, an argument can be inspected in itself. So this is there are four lights. That's what he calls himself. First, an argument can be expected for itself. I guess he's quoting Hathaway. Others don't need to counter argument to access deficiencies in another's argument. Well, anyway. Yes, this is something that's going to have to be repeated. I don't know how the fuck somebody could say this is a repeatable statement. So if I said this to 10 scientists, if I said to them, first, an argument can be inspected in itself. Others don't need to counter argument to access deficiencies in another's argument. I just don't know how. Certainly you can see something, you can say it's broken, and then you can walk away and never talk about it. Or you can say it's broken and explain why it's broken. Why would anyone have a conversation about people who don't explain why it's broken? I mean, you can't just walk up and say it's broken, I'm done here. That's not making any kind of sensible argument or having a sensible interaction. You have to explain why it's broken and why it's none of your... If you want to say, I'm not going to fix it, then say, okay, it's not my problem. I'm going home. But how can this sentence make any sense? How could somebody endorse this piece of rubbish as a sentence? An argument can be inspected in itself. Okay, I say marshmallows are evil. Okay. Now you can inspect that. Okay, well that's a theory, you know. They give me the creeps a little bit, but I don't know if they're evil. That would be my opinion. Others don't need to counter-argue. Others don't need a counter-argument. Others don't need a counter-argument. Others don't need a counter-argument. So I say marshmallows are evil. The red me says, I don't think they're evil, but creepy but not evil. And some other guy doesn't need a counter-argument. I don't know what that means. I just don't know how to fucking make that make any sense at all. To access deficiencies in another's argument. I just don't understand. Where have I made some point that somebody can't have an opinion? I certainly have never said that. The point is, if they're going to say something's wrong, they have to explain why they say it's wrong. And the explanation can't be because I say so. Fuck! Alright, anyway. I just can't believe this idiot said this. Yes, this is something that is going to have to be repeated. I'd say I don't know what the answer is, then accept something that I'm not convinced is right. Well, that's not the subject here. I'm not asking anybody to sit there and say, you know what I've said over and over, repeated 15 million times, actually? Well, okay. It's only 1,000. The evidence is weak. They won't even say those words. They won't even concede that they don't have, like the volume of evidence for evolution, that they don't have a closed book slam dunk theory, that it's nowhere close to that, especially on things like gravitational lensing and gravity waves and bent space and the time dimension. The evidence is incredibly thin, weak, tissue paper bullshit. There's just a tiny, tiny bit of, that seems right. There's not anything close to a volume of evidence pointing to that being the fucking truth. And they won't even concede something as grotesquely obvious as that. Fuck. And you're talking to me about what you have to accept. I'm just arguing that if you can't be fair at all and say that the current established theory for which they say is the most dependable and predictive mathematics in the history of the universe, when they say these preposterous things, that they should have to back that up with something like evidence. I mean, you know, I can play Feynman clips all over again, but I mean, even Feynman, one of the fathers of this mumbo jumbo, says explicitly, look, light's not a wave. It can't work as a wave. It's a corpuscle. It goes from point A to point B in a straight line. It's not a wave. He says it. And then he says things like, look, the truth could be it's all a big checkerboard, and it's just the fact that there's so many checkers that makes it too complicated for us to deal with. But it could be really, really simple in its function. He says those things. He doesn't say things like, yeah, the checkerboard has 3 different levels of, we're playing, multi-dimensional chess like Spock or something. Some kind of preposterously silly game. He doesn't talk, when he talks about what the universe is doing, he doesn't start talking about how, yeah, it's like bent space, and it's like dark matter, and it's like all these. He doesn't use any of that crap, because I don't think he liked any of that crap. He very rarely even acknowledged the existence of Einstein, Feynman. Very rarely even acknowledged his existence, because I don't think he liked bent space as the answer. But anyway. No, this says read more. I don't know if I want to do that. Ooh, gets a little bit longer. Second, it is interesting to note that the universe does work in an eternal perpetual motion machine, entropy ever increasing. Second, it is interesting, he's quoting something. Second, it is interesting to note that the universe does work as an eternal, perpetual motion machine, entropy ever increasing. Oh, so Halliday was saying. Okay, sorry then. Entropy increasing, not energy. Okay, well, obviously, yes. The photons have the energy. There's nothing where there's no way suggesting that a bunch of new photons are being fed into the universe. So yes, nobody's suggesting that. Halliday, we don't need any more confusion than there already is. Whatever that is. Third, it appears we are trying to explain perpetual motion of objects by perpetual motion of other objects, quantabits. How come this reads better when I'm in the quotes? Because that's not too offensive either. Yes, the perpetual motion of the quantabits, you could theorize that if you have more of them going one way than you have going another way inside of something, that it would go the way it has more bits going. Yes, that's the whole school of fish analogy. Yes. Did you read the title of the video? I don't know. I can't remember what the title was. The rest I don't care about. Okay, yeah, this is about drag, I guess. So, stop spreading more confusion than there already is. Well, I appreciate you saying that much anyway. But saying this first thing over again, I don't see any point in saying this first thing over again. I don't know how you made sense of it. Okay, first, an argument can be inspected in itself. Others don't need to counter-argument. Others don't need a counter-argument. Argument can be inspected in itself. Others don't need a counter-argument. To access deficiencies in another's argument. Just can't make any sense out of that. I don't know how you could say that's something people need to repeat. I didn't say energy, and fuck, I don't know, fuck with two F's? I don't know what that, fuck off, okay. Jeez. He's afraid to say, you could have said, like, they could have kept the off part. I mean, the off part isn't a bad word. Just put your little asterisk for the fuck part, and you could have just done off, and everybody would have been happy. I didn't say energy, and fuck off, I'll do exactly as I please, fascist. So, Halliday with this excessive emotion. Stating again, the whole point isn't that anyone wants to restrict you from doing as you please, so to speak, but isn't the whole point that if you please, if that means you go into somebody else's front yard, take shits, and then you shoot people who shit in your front yard, that's hypocrisy, and people can point out how, well, you know, you're doing whatever you please, but the game you're playing is bullshit. So I'm just saying, I mean, yes, do as you please, but I will, by rational standards, describe you for what you are, which is a troll. A hypocritical troll. Alright, one more, and I think we're done. Okay, I agree 100%. Okay, the truth always adds up. Well, that's a scary name too. I agree 100%. Ken says things using words that other people don't understand. He also contradicts himself. Yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, he says one thing that ether's, you know, is the counter space, and the next minute it's the unmagnitude, or I mean, well, you know what I mean. It's just insane. It contradicts himself by calling Einstein a moron for saying space can be bent. How can nothing be bent? Well, again, I don't even know why people worry about this explicit semantics. I mean, obviously, bent space doesn't even happen. It's contracted space. So it's not really bent. There's no gravity well. It's a three-dimensional universe. You can't use 2 dimensions with gravity to illustrate it. So obviously an accurate illustration is a constriction of space, a contraction of space. It's not bent, it's contracted space. Then he turns around and says that an electron is not a particle, it's a wave. So how can he... So now he is saying nothing can do something. Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, all of this is... I mean, I wish we could get past semantics, but yes, unfortunately people are going to hang on it. LOL. But his Demonstration using a steel ring as an electron gives me insight into what the ether is. I don't know how a steel ring as an electron gives you insight, but lucky for you, because I can't find any insight on, it's like, I could feel his boobs all day, and I just won't be able to find a damn thing in there. Anyway, point blank AC. Point blank in AC. Okay, this isn't going to go anywhere good. Point blank in AC. I mean, that's like a phrase. It just, if I Google that, there's no way. Nobody's ever said that before. Point blank in AC. We know the higher the voltage, the less the current. Well, that's just crazy, but whatever. I mean, obviously, if you don't add any more to get your higher voltage, and you're subtracting it from the current. So yes, if you have the same watts, you're stuck. But if you can increase the watts, you can certainly increase the current. So whatever. So if a particle is fully charged, whatever that means, the magnetic decrease is down enough so that for all intents and purposes it's a 2D space, what some are calling counter space. So now you're saying counter space is two-dimensional space. I just think this is idiotic. Any conversation where you're adding dimensions or subtracting dimensions, it's a three-dimensional universe. So whatever. Yeah, I'm just saying that's sort of a starter for me. If you can't accept the three dimensions and everything has to function within them, I mean, saying something's functioning in 2 dimensions is okay with me. I mean, you can say it functions in 2 dimensions. But this idea that somehow, well, you could explain how something can lose its 3rd dimension. It can sacrifice it, and it only has elements in 2 dimensions. But I just don't see any point in saying that somehow. Well, I'm just saying this doesn't say anything to me. That's all I should say. I should just say that doesn't sing. Not getting you. All right, so that seems like enough. Yeah. Okay, dinner time. Hell with this. Yeah, so there's no theme in these comments, pretty much. Not theme based. So, till the next time. Well, we'll reload just in case. Maybe something new and fantastic. Ooh, there is. Oh, I shouldn't have reloaded. Alright, Scar Runner. Oh, hum. I think that's how satellites work. Not exactly, but it's similar. What does that even... you have to connect things to things. You can't just do this. I'm just going to start a comment with a bunch of random blah blah. They have an internal motor designed to offset the angular position of the satellite and basically turn it. Yes, of course, satellites can reposition themselves to some extent. Yes. What does that have to do with this conversation? They have fuel. With the drawing shown here, I'm tempted to think that this is something like those ping pong paddles with balls attached by springs. Maybe a better thing to think would be a magnetized paddle. Would that be right? Either way, you're still stuck with the fact that yin yang. Okay, it's always going to try to yin. You have to always be careful. As soon as you think you've got more yin than yang, you're probably not looking hard enough. So that's my only argument here, is this yin yang thing is powerful. So in any one of these systems, you have to really look through it all to make sure you actually have a mechanism that can make less feel like more. Okay. Haha, and smiley thingy. That was a hilarious rant at the end. I don't know what video it was, so I guess I should see what it is. DraftScience 6. Oh, it's okay. I ranted. Oh, good. Good for the heart. This stuff makes sense. I can't even imagine how this isn't the right answer. It's true, though, that people never try to save the kernel, or it's true that people never try to save the kernel of something and show it for and show it for a future day. I mean, obviously this guy's like foreign or something. Yeah, they don't value the fact that there's a kernel of good and say, well, look, you just take the bad off and let's fix it. So they never want to fix ideas. They just want to go with the one that everybody's already, they already have the band on the wagon. And they don't want to bother saying, oh, we're on the wrong wagon. Oh, okay, we have to put the band on the other wagon. They don't want to go do that work. Instead, they throw it away and shoot the messenger. Yes, exactly. It's just terribly tragic. That's why human beings suck, is because they're not conscious of this stuff. I mean, I said it. They're so jumped ahead of the evidence, and they won't admit it. The evidence is weak. That's a fact. They've jumped way ahead of it. They just say things exist now. So we've proven and we've demonstrated that black holes exist, and that black holes convert into bounces in the ether, or in the bent space geometry, and they just shove this crap out as if they somehow have real evidence indicating any of this crap. Actually, we know that photons can read our minds. I mean, it's just bullshit. Right or wrong, ideas take a lot of effort and creativity, and that is something not many want to recognize. Yes, and to the Ken Wheeler supporters, Einstein obviously spent his entire life playing with these objects and trying to find the function. And he didn't give up and say, oh yeah, nothing's, he didn't. And he didn't even like his own ideas, I mean, he really did want to unify physics. He didn't want it to be bent space and quantum mechanics. He didn't want it to be two subjects. And these people can't even concede that you don't call him a knuckle dragger. That's just bullshit. Anyway, okay, we're done. I mean, I think he was wrong, but that's not a crime. I don't think he was wrongly I don't think he had a wrong intention in any way, or that he did something fundamentally wrong in terms of, it's just that yes, the evidence was weak, and he should have conceded that. He should have conceded that we really haven't proven this yet. Everybody was jumping on the Einstein wagon, and Einstein should have said, I haven't even tested the wheels on this thing, the tractor motor, nothing. I haven't done a damn thing to prove that any of this shit can work. So maybe you shouldn't start building Empire State Buildings on this fucking wagon, because I haven't done any work at all to verify it. I mean, I got nothing. Just kind of sounds good. It's kind of a fun theory, but really, don't build houses on it. Anyway, alright, now I'm done. So, till the next time, such.